Welcome back to AI War 2, continuing Necromancer and Neinzul gameplay, and thank you all for your patience. I wanted to get this episode up sooner, but I was waiting on a patch to resolve a couple of bugs. That's now in place, and I did change the color here on the Neinzul Enthusiast AI. It was a green that was very similar to my Empire, and now it should be a lot easier to distinguish visually. There was a good question asked in the first session that I wanted to answer, which is about modules and bubble force fields. And basically the question was, if we got the enhanced shield boost, which boosts your personal shields by 50%, would that also apply to the bubble force field? Can you have a synergy multiplication thing going on there? And you can. That is in fact how that works. If I invested in both of those, I would have $2.25 million for both the personal shield and the bubble force field. But I would also say, as a cautionary thing, that may not be a good idea. That's 6 points invested entirely into shields, and there are some weapons that can completely bypass shields. You want to be careful about having too much of your defenses locked down in the shield. Another part of that is the bubble force field is protecting this whole area, not just the phylactery, which in a sense is good. In another sense, it means the bubble force field is going to go down much faster than it would if it was a personal shield, because any weapons fire aimed at anything inside this bubble is going to hit it. And that's particularly an acute situation if you have an area of effect weapon that's going to come in and hit 10, 12, however many things at once. All of those hits are going to impact this shield and make it shrink that much faster. So I think that's probably something that's worth thinking about. You might want to go with a weapon or with the gravity field. I'm just going to stick with the bubble force field for now because I think it's cool, but I'm not at all saying it's definitively the best way. Then I also want to look at some of the changes, or differences rather, between the necropolises. If we take a look at our phylactery here, it defaults to 750k hull, 1.5 million shields, and then we're going to have 500k hull, 1 million shields for the major necropolis, 500k hull, and 500k shield for the minor. So as you go down the different necropolises, it's not just a case of which one gives you better opportunities in terms of a new fleet, but also there's a difference in durability. And then if we look at the modules, there's differences as well. The minor necropolis, yes, it's cheaper, but it also only has 2 module points. We started with 6 on our phylactery. I'm just going to go with a hull here. And then the major necropolis, that starts us out with 5, almost as many as the phylactery. So quite the boost in that case. I'm going to go with the hull and the shield here. And then the weapons, we've got the rail cannon, infinite range, very much an anti-sniper type of platform. I like the repulsor rocket, at least for the moment, better. The multi-shot, the ability to slow enemies down, knock them back, keep them away from the necropolis. I'm going to add that one on. Then I want to look at our allies. The Sapper first, and they build these things. Sapper habitats, which you can see it says a home base for the Sapper core. Supports 1 Sapper and provides some resources, namely metal, over time. And then we have this Sapper over here, and this is the actual ship that's going to go around and build items. It has some weapons, but its main goal is to be a constructor. And you can see it also has Bloodstone and Moonstone. Currently, it's heading off to build a Garnet turret on Congo, down to this next system. Then they have these metallic crystals. These are their economic structures, and if it's an enemy Sapper faction, which we don't have in this particular setup, you can see you can raid them, knock these out, and you can get some metal out of it. But mostly, these are just locations that develop fairly quickly for the Sappers, then they can go pick up more resources to have plenty for building whatever they need to build. And they're an economic infrastructure type of situation. Then in Congo, we have a Sapper here as well. It's building a different kind of turret, a hematite sniper turret. And there's another Sapper habitat here. We don't have any yet in Korai, but that spreading out will happen in time. We're only a few minutes in. Then the Custodians. So they have an interesting setup. They have these Neinzul hives, which are bonded, or their life force is connected, or however you want to think about that, to their roaming enclaves. In other words, if you destroy one, you destroy the other. Destroy an enclave, you're going to destroy the associated hive. And they don't expand very quickly after their initial entry into the galaxy, which means that what we're going to end up having is a situation where if you raid them, if we lose a bunch of enclaves or we lose a bunch of hives, it's going to take them a while to recover. And the same thing for the enemy custodians that we're going to encounter. These hives do gradually produce these medium-sized ships, the clanlings as well. And each group of custodians has their own unique type of the roaming enclave. So if you look at ours, we have the Integrity class, a durable hull. It's got not a lot of damage, but it does do damage amplification. So when it shoots something, anything else that shoots it for a few seconds afterwards is going to get that damage increase. So it's going to assist the rest of the forces involved in the attack force. This whole idea of them being bonded together, the hives and the roaming enclaves, and the fact that one loses the other, is a reason for why they tend to retreat from battles when they don't feel like they have the advantage. It's important for them to preserve their numbers since they don't expand very fast. And that's something you can adjust if you don't like that particular behavior in the lobby when you're setting up a game. You can make them even more likely to flee, or you can make them more aggressive if that's something you want to change. But when we go to attack them later, we'll want to keep that in mind, the enemy groups of custodians, because any ones of these enclaves we can knock out will be less that we have to go really deep raiding enemy planets and knocking out the hives. And you can really do a significant damage and set them back for a while if you're able to knock out some of that infrastructure. So let's take a look and catch up on some of our documentation, then move into some more attacks with our Necromancer here. They do have a lot more tips here, although this will slow down very soon. And the tech unlocks, that's just a base game item. Familiar with that if you've played AI War 2 before, showing us how important mark upgrades are for Necromancer, flagships, and Necropolises. The blueprints we haven't talked about quite yet. The main way we're going to get those is by dealing with the Elderlings. That's another purpose we have for them. And transforming our flagships to more powerful form is really going to be fun and an important way for us to improve later on. Amplifiers, we've already seen those. Defenses, reminding us that our mobile fleets are key, more so than static defenses. And then capturing guard posts, we've seen that. The skeleton and white ship description here are important because they give you several different kinds, and so you can see what the possibilities are going to be in the general role that each of the skeleton variants has, and the same thing here with the white. So that's probably worth taking a bit of time to read through. And then all of our information on the Necropolis, as we have seen already. A couple more base game features, wait for stragglers and guard units. And then resource monitoring. And this is one that's easy to miss. If we look up here under Essence, then we can see this is how we got all of our resources. And as the game develops, we'll be able to see where we're getting our science, where we're getting our essence and hacking, and then what we might want to do. You can see patterns developing in where you might want to go to try to get more resources of a particular type that you might feel like you're low on. So that's very important to keep in mind, and not immediately obvious, I don't think, that it's there. On the journal side, we have a nice big long spiel here on the Custodians. And then we have Warden and Hunter. We're quite familiar with them. Then the beacons overview. A bunch of beacons were recently re-added to the game. So those who have been waiting and asking for those, they are around. Go have fun with them. And it's time now for us to go on the attack. So my main idea here is I just want to bolster my fleet by going on the attack and fighting some more before I worry about getting into taking more territory. I'm going to head over to Alakris here. Looks like we got a brief attack. Got some ships coming in here, but we're handling it just fine. Alright, let's get out of here. Notice these drones coming out of this Neinzul cluster. There's a period at the beginning of the game for a while where you can just fight these planets without them having built up fully because they're still building up their complement of drones. Eventually they'll get all the way up and it will become more difficult. That was a very small part of their full potential. I think there's a few hundred in each of those when they have gotten everything up. And then areas like this over here where they have a group of turrets, That's one of the weak spots for Necromancer. There aren't many, but that's one of them. Because we're not going to get any benefit from knocking these out. They're just going to wear down our ships, and we don't get to feed off them. But we did have some more Guardians in here. I think we probably got a couple more whites. So we are cleaning out the mess.
Is this vital to you? Pity. You wanted reduced
There we go.
dust.
Let's see how we're doing. 20 whites. We've gone up a little bit. 37 archers. Couple of the possessed whites. Very nice amount of skeletons now. We're starting to get in some weaks. So I'd still like to grow some, but this is not bad. Let's move on. Well, we've got a couple of things going on here, actually. We've got Templar hitting us on Daring, and then a wave coming here. So we could just leave that to our other fleet, but I'm going to load up and go back and defend. Because even defending against a wave is still an opportunity to get more ships. So it's not like I'm just going back and wasting time. This is going to be key to us. Alright, we have something new coming in. And this is the Migrants. So we're going to pay a little more attention to these journals because there's a bit of a story bit here. Commander, our scanners on Dunkles are reporting strange anomalies. As best we can tell, what appear to be wormholes have opened up on the edge of the system. Unlike the traditional kind we know of, however, these don't appear to originate from our galaxy and are more curiously orbiting around the sector. We have noted a number of smaller strike craft flooding out of the wormhole, though they are rapidly decomposing, as Neinzul do, upon reaching our space. Our military leaders report them broadcasting an open signal that we were able to replicate remotely, and we believe these smaller ships to be friendly. Of more note is a much larger signal coming through the wormhole, which our scientists believe to be from a ship of much larger scale than these swarms. Maybe worth investigating in person. We will continue to monitor the situation and brief you when we learn more. So we don't know when it's coming through, but there's something that we should be looking at on Dunkles. So let's, first of all, just get a bit of a look at where that actually is. And it's over here. It's a Mark IV planet. We're not ready to crash in there yet, but we should try to get there reasonably soon if we can. And if you miss out on migrants coming into the galaxy, then you can go back and do it later. It's not a you miss it once, you fail it idea, but obviously the more successful you are at these, the more of a benefit we are actually going to see to our fighting. And so now we've got ships coming into one planet, we've got ships on a couple other ones. We need to check that out and make sure everything is okay. So they are... okay, they're fleeing over this way. The other thing is, this is one of the reasons for gravity being useful, because you can keep enemy ships on a planet instead of them bouncing around to different ones. And they'll tend to do that a lot on Necromancer, because you don't have the same level of fixed defenses. Okay, here we go. Now let's see what we have here. We have a Jasper turret from the Sappers. So they've got... it's basically an ambush turret for ships coming into a wormhole like this, because you can see they have attack bonus based on time on the planet, and also on ships being caught in tractor beams. And then we have Death Grip turret flowing by, so that's kind of a nice little bit of synergy. Then we have the Garnet turret we noticed here before. More damage from underneath the force field, weapon jammer. So there's a variety of things that the Sappers are going to provide for us. And they've even got another turret there. So it looks like we're going to smash this one just fine. And these are some rather large Templar ships who are unhappy with us, but they also are going to give us science for destroying them. And our fleet is gradually sorting itself in here. It doesn't appear that we are having any troubles. We lost some shields here on our orb of absorption, but otherwise we're doing fine. Okay, you can go back. And we have more fun coming this way. This is actually the Templar Exo. That was a Templar wave. This is the Templar Exo for hitting the rift. And you can see they've got a herald here in the middle, and they have these page attendants around it. There's another orbiting bit that's going on with those. And so the action here can get a little crazy back and forth on a regular basis. But we are fine at the moment. You should be able to clear those out and return to deal with that wave, I think. Let's move our fleet into another attack. I'm going to hit this system now. And our shield here about half gone, but it is not going to have any problems. You can just hang out here, and actually let's go back, because they're going to be waiting for you over there. And you can see the Enclave, the Custodians coming in to help us. And there's another white, knocking out a Guardian. Always a nice thing to see. And I think I am going to boost my archers one more level.
Time for a regularly scheduled structural integrity test.
And more fun coming our way. But I think I'm going to ignore that. I think we're going to be fine with what we have. Look at them. They're running. Trying to run anyway. Let's see. Let's get back. Let's have you... I want you to cycle around over here. Now, it's always a good idea to knock out the Templar structures, because when the Templar attacks come in, they will gather up additional reinforcements as they make their way through the galaxy to hit you from all of these Templar structures. So that's a good idea. Obviously, the resources is a good idea. I may or may not want this rift yet, but just getting rid of this will still be of benefit. So let's see, you have... Well, you're going to hang out in here. We'll fight you some more. There we go. Slide over into Daring, if you would, please.
This would be a good time to let your guard down.
And let's see what's going on here in Shamir. There we go. The other thing about knocking these out is if you attack a nearby system, they'll sometimes leave and go help. And so if you can get rid of these, it's just one less source of reinforcements that we're going to have to deal with. Divide and conquer, if you will. Alright, they are there on Dunkles, and a Roman enclave has exited. Let's take a look at all of that. Commander, our scanners on Dunkles have reported that a much larger vessel has arrived from the wormhole before the wormhole immediately closed behind it. From what we can see, this ship, dubbed the Roaming Enclave, while weak by itself, has some of the most potent acidic weaponry we have ever seen. Interestingly, the moment the wormhole stopped, so too did the production of the youngling craft. It appears the Roaming Enclave lacks the ability to create younglings by itself. Ship is broadcasting a relatively confused signal that we are struggling to decrypt, but we have roughly translated it at the bottom of this entry. Regardless of the signal's intent, the previous signal of friendship that the younglings had is also being broadcast by this enclave. So it may be in our interest to investigate in person. Confusion. Meddle yet again. To us it's fail. We must find a new home. Younglings must not be in vain. Safety moo clanlings. So yeah, we're only understanding part of it. And as much as I would like to jump in here, I really can't. I don't think I'm strong enough to do it quite yet. But notice the message there at the bottom. It says, this migrant is new to this galaxy and randomly wandering around. If you gain a military advantage on this planet, you'll be able to slowly guide it back to your territory for safe keeping. So what's probably going to happen here is they're going to get destroyed by the AI in the system. We'll have to wait for another opportunity. But getting a military escort, we could take the next step of that particular quest. Right now, I want to finish up in this system. We've got another wave that's going to be hitting us soon in Congo. We have other things to do here. And we have a lovely Elderling. Mark 1. Not worth a huge amount to us. And yeah, they're going to run away. We're going to let them. Okay. So I would like to think about popping in here next. But I'm not sure we're going to be strong enough. Let's take a look. I'm just going to send a few skeletons into Luxurion, which has a white amplifier, which is why I'm thinking about taking it. Yeah, this is pretty strong. They've got some Warden in here. I could take this, but I think I want to take another planet first before I try to mess with something of that much resistance. And we can just keep moving around trying to knock out various planets. We could munch on, you know, this one over here. But since there's a rift here, this really is probably a good one for us to take. There's a limit to how much usefulness you can actually get out of rifts, just due to there's only so many hexes you can build things on your planet. But yeah, I mean, we're going to destroy that one and get slightly more. Fine. I am going to go with another Necropolis here. Again, we're going to bolster this fleet. And then on the hacking side, so you can just hack for more essence. I generally don't use that one much, but if you're really low on essence, it can be a possibility. So we've got the Banshees, the cloaked and decloaking defensive ship. We have to have Mark II flagships to hack for these particular blueprints, and you can get better blueprints from the Elderlings, so I don't think I want to do this just yet. This is a really strong one, though. It's actually going to be reduced in effectiveness starting with the next patch. But boosting your bodyguard cap allows me to basically increase the fleet without actually taking up any more hexes. It just boosts the cap on how big those bodyguard lines can be. That's definitely the one that I'm going to do in this particular case. And then we will build our usuals. And I think I need to make sure, yeah, I didn't shift you down to Congo. Let's do that really quick. It's so easy to forget things that I'm trying to do here because of how much is going on. And look at this. The Neinzul Wild Hives. We haven't actually seen them yet, but they control 4% of the galaxy. Okay. And then we have all of these coming in, and we will soon deal with you. I don't imagine that we'll have too much of a problem doing that. Okay. More archers. More rogues. I'll go with the totems, if you would please. And then the tachyon. And actually, I'm going to get rid of the rogues. And throw up the whites instead. Particularly since we just got the boost to the possessed white bodyguard. Let's take a look at what that gave us. Because these were 5 each. So we had 2 of these at 5 each, and now we're going to have 3 at 10 each. So even with a small boost to the bodyguards, those are really nice. And for me, the kicker is just that they don't require you to have any more investment in hexes. So that really becomes a strong advantage. We're almost ready to start taking on bigger opposition, but I did lose most of my skeletons that I had built up in this fleet to that slothful Elderling that poked its nose in where it wasn't wanted in Shamir. So I need to probably hit some smaller planets to boost that back up, and then we should also invest what we can of our essence and our science to get the most out of what we have. That will be coming up next time, but this episode's already run a bit long. I did want to note we got one more tip in. Pretty much the big info dump at the start of the game is now finished. But they're letting us know about the Templar and basically making the same point about the defensive structures that you really want to take them out so they don't boost the strength of the attack waves the Templar are going to send at you. Necromancer will continue. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back soon.